This is a very insightful episode on Web3 and NFTs. If you are an artist, collector, a web developer, or just a newbie who wants to join in, this is a very important episode for you. Nik Kalyani, the founder of Decentrology, is a leader and visionary in the Web3 community. As a bonus, you'll also hear wisdom on entrepreneurship and know more about the personal journey of this serial entrepreneur who is currently in his 5th startup. This episode was originally recorded as a Twitter space, so the conversation is very fluid and you'll also be hearing voices and thoughts of other participants. Enjoy the show.
Hi, you are listening to Rocklaz Radio,
A podcast discussing inspiring personalities and interesting things. This is your host, Tanmay Shah.
Tanmay is an India-based NFT artist and an entrepreneur with diverse business experience.
This podcast is self-sponsored.
The best way to support this show is to buy his art, NFTs. You can also become his patron. Kindly share this episode on socials and with your friends.
Let me just announce what all things Nik is doing for us. His NFT Dreams DAO is coming up to support all artists and collectors. Then he's building a Hyperverse. It's all open source platform for Web3, which you can use tools to new Web3 apps and make it more streamlined and easy. And that's so amazing. And the third, yes, absolutely. It was an amazing time in Bangalore with Namaste NFT, and it was all title sponsor, silver, gold, everything was sponsored by Nik and his company, and it was so awesome to see him. And he was collecting NFTs right and left and doing airdrops of T-shirts, throwing. It was crazy fun, dancing and all the seminars. I don't have a tech background. I'm not a developer, but I still was curious about Hyperverse and things he's doing for the developers. And I got to sneak into that workshop, and it was really amazing what he's doing. I'm very keen on knowing about his startups, his experiences with 2 startups which he failed, and 2 startups which he got exit from, and now is in the 5th startup. We are blessed with Nik in the space today. So, Nik, about the third your initiative, which I was talking in the beginning, third initiative is TryCrypto. That is initiative of all. There's an all-women team, and they are onboarding newbies to Web3 and crypto with new products, simplified products, and I was so pleasantly surprised to see them using that experimental ETH to onboard and actually do these transactions in the live workshop to give people an experience of that. So all these 3 things got me excited about the future. So Nik, thank you once again, and let's hear it from you.
Yeah, like with TryCrypto, or like one of the things, I created the organization, but it's all intended to grow to about 10,000 women in the space. And we see lots of websites where people can read about how to do stuff. They can watch videos, or they can listen to podcasts, etc., on how to do stuff. But it's just like riding a bicycle, like you got to actually do it, and then you get a feel for it, So what the TryCrypto team is doing is basically creating a website which consists of journeys. So you go there and you say that I would like to do X, and that could be I would like to be in DeFi, I would like to be in GameFi. I just want to understand what the heck crypto is about. I want to mint an NFT, etc. And so you choose your journey, and then it's going to walk you step by step through actually doing it there. And the first thing is we wanted to start by educating people about crypto, because everyone has, at least like right now, a bunch of people have MetaMask, etc., but they literally have no idea what they're doing when they click on that blue button that says, sign or whatever. Like, that's opaque. Like, people might intuitively understand that they're creating a transaction, but the inner workings of it are completely opaque. And we want to make sure that people understand what is a private key, how is an account derived from a private key? What does signing actually do? What is hashing? All those things we want to explain in like super clear, super plain English, and actually have you do it. Because when you do it and you see the results on Etherscan, the Explorer, you can connect the dots. Once you start connecting the dots, you become much smarter and you become less vulnerable to hacks and things like that. Like right now, a lot of people who say on Twitter, my MetaMask got hacked. That's not actually true, right? Like what happened was they clicked on the link and the MetaMask is just fine. It didn't get hacked. They leaked their private key somehow. So like those kind of things, we want to educate people on that. So the TryCrypto team is going to create all these journeys. And then later on, we are going to do a drop honoring the greatest women in cryptography. Because, like we hear about all the men who have done stuff in crypto, but we don't know that, some of the greatest innovations in crypto have actually come from women. And so we're going to do a drop called Crypto Queens on those amazing women, including Ada Lovelace, Elizabeth Friedman. Elizabeth Friedman in particular, if it wasn't for her, right now we would all be in the US at least speaking German. So, yeah. So, things like that.
Wow, I'm getting goosebumps listening to that. All the initiatives. So, women in the space, if you want to join hands with TryCrypto and join the organization in all the things that Nick just explained, do hit him up. TryCrypto has their own handle. Let me find and pin it on top so you can join there. Nick, could you also tell us a bit about the NFT Dream DAO?
Sure, yeah. So at Namaste NFT, I announced the launch of the sort of Nifty Dreams DAO. And the mission of the DAO is to enable artists worldwide to actually earn a living through their art and not have to look at art as a secondary thing they have to do while doing some boring ass job to pay the bills. We want artists to be able to hold their heads up high and not have to come to people, telling them, "Oh, your art is worthless," etc. Our art is perfectly valid profession. It is, in fact, a great profession, and we want people to recognize that and also fix the problems in this now. Like all of us know, intuitively or otherwise, that we are seeing a huge renaissance right now, like none other in art. And this renaissance has been triggered by the fact that we have a decentralized mechanism, the blockchain, and on it this technology called non-fungible tokens, NFTs, that make it possible for artists to publish their art. But really, what we've been doing so far, because it's just sort of the very beginning, is we've been scratching the surface, and I would say going about it in a slightly haphazard and perhaps even wrong way, where artists just sort of publish their art and then hope to get a sale. And that doesn't happen because artists are not marketers. Artists don't know anything about, most artists, I shouldn't say all artists, but most artists are happy and content to be creating art. They don't want to be marketing. They don't want to be selling. They don't want to be identifying their audience. They don't want to be doing analytics of marketplaces to understand, what keywords are important and what categories are important. They don't want to look at what kind of pricing mechanics should be implemented. They don't know what promotion should be created. All of this, just completely an alien territory to most artists, and we want to fix that. So with Nifty Dreams, the idea is to aggregate, is to work together, to get every artist in the world collaborating together to make this NFT space that we are in exciting and accessible and available to mainstream users. See, what's happening right now is that there's a small number of collectors, almost a trivially small number of collectors who are buying stuff, and then artists are buying each other's stuff. This is a ginormous echo chamber. Like there's nothing happening here. There is no new value being created. the value unlock is going to happen when millions and millions of mainstream users start understanding and appreciating art and NFTs and get disabused of the notion that these are just JPEGs. That requires education. That requires the user experience of acquiring NFTs to be like trivially simple. It is horrendous right now. It is just not possible for mainstream users to get into it. So it requires that, and it requires targeted marketing. It requires professional marketers to employ all the skills we've learned in the past 20 years of and apply them to target. And it also requires professional curators take this art and organize it into collections, etc. So all of this is the stuff that the Nifty Dreams DAO is going to do. A few days ago, I posted a sneak peek at sort of the top things that the top mission of the DAO, and I'm just trying to look it up right now. I'll find that tweet somewhere. But if I don't find it right now, I will look it up a little later and pin it. But the idea is that the DAO is going to be collaborating with professional museums, galleries, etc., and organizing large-scale events that are crossover, from analog art to digital art. We are going to create a token, the Nifty token, and that token is the single binding force for all artists worldwide. Instead of everyone thinking for themselves, we want everyone to think collectively so that the rising tide lifts all boats. And we are also going to implement within the DAO some DeFi so that artists can actually start getting wealthy. We want to, for example, implement a staking pool where a portion of the sales from every artist goes into a pool. And then as you stake your tokens accrue value so that at some point you can withdraw them and have a large amount of cash to take away. So there's a lot of dynamics at play here, but we'll start small by and organizing the DAO into and going to advertise or announce rather all the positions that we will have. So the DAO is going to be organized into various guilds. Within the guilds, like there might be a marketing guild, an events guild, there might be a curation guild, etc. So there's a role for everybody to play in this, and together we will change the world.
Wow, incredible. I have pinned a couple of tweets of Nifty DAO and other.
That's great.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm totally excited for this. Nick, how can we support this and participate and bring your dream come true as soon as possible?
Yeah, well, that ask is coming, Tanmay, very, very shortly. Like right now, we're in the process of working with a small team to lay the groundwork for season 0 and get this document written up. Then we will publish it for feedback, and then we'll start acting upon it. So there's going to be an ask for people to volunteer very, very soon, and you can see of the 6 things mentioned there in the tweet. There's a lot of room for everybody to contribute in some way or form. For me, when we are all working together, we are all pulling in the same direction. I think we can move mountains. And one of those mountains I want to move is, as quickly as possible, have the DAO actually start buying museums and galleries, so that we can effect change from the inside out.
Wow, that is an enormous dream, and I'm sure we are going to be successful in it. I'm stumbling. I'm stuttering talking about this. It is so huge and exciting. People who don't know Nick, I'm sure there's very few of them. Do follow him. He has already collected over 2,000 NFTs. What do you call 2,000 NFTs? So do check that out. Do follow him. He creates threads for sharing the artwork and fun meme comments with the goggles and other things. So it's just amazing. It'll benefit you staying in touch with him. So Nick, one more thing. I want to know about the third aspect as well, about the Hyperverse. Many of us are keen on that. So could you just share a bit on that as well?
Sure. So my startup Decentrology We are a seed stage startup, and our mission is to onboard 10 million web developers to Web3. And we've gone through several products trying to figure out exactly how to solve this problem. Our first product we built was Dap Starter. And what Dap Starter did was compress time. It took like the 1 or 2 weeks it takes a new developer to get building in this space. We compressed it to roughly around 30 seconds. And that would help. But what we found out is that most devs do not want to learn the complexities of smart contract programming languages like Solidity, Cadence, Rust, etc. And by the way, I just realized I want to apologize. Like I have switched gears unconsciously from talking about art and simple language to really jargon language developer speak. So I do that very unconsciously, depending on the audience I'm on. So if you're an artist in this audience and some of this it doesn't make sense, I apologize for that. But in any event, so we built Dap Starter, and we had some 15,000 projects built on it, including Animoca as a MotoGP project and others. And we're like, well, 15,000 is a far cry from 10 million. How do I get to 10 million? And so that's when we sort of stepped back and decided that we need to figure out why Web2 development was successful and sort of replicate that. So Web2 was successful because of the advent of something called APIs. Like before, developers struggled with building applications. And then what happened is that companies essentially exposed their services as a standard format called an API, application programming interface. So for example, people struggle with doing payments, and Stripe came along. Now you add 2 lines of code, boom, you've got payments. People struggle with messaging. Twilio came along, add a couple lines of code, you got messaging, SMS, etc. Same thing with Google Maps, Amazon for storage, etc. So there thousands of companies came up, and it unlocked a huge explosion in development in Web2 through this one term called composability. Instead of writing all your applications, you compose them of different APIs, with your code being the glue that orchestrates all these different APIs. So I was like, well, we're in Web3. And so the Hyperverse is the result of that. So what we want to do is have the people, the developers who know how to create smart contracts, create them and deploy them on-chain, but in a very special and unique way. Instead of writing these long, monolithic, complicated smart contracts, we want them to write modular contracts that do one thing really well, and we call them smart modules. So imagine these are like Lego blocks. So these developers who know that deploy them on chain, and then we provide a very slim JavaScript layer, abstraction layer for it, kind of like an API. And then now JavaScript developers can build Web3 apps without knowing anything about smart contracts. And that's what the Hyperverse is all about. So we want to have developers build thousands of these modules, these Lego blocks, and JavaScript developers can then just put them together in any combination and create sophisticated apps. But that's not all we are doing. We are also innovating in the software space. Within these modules, we are allowing developers to have monetization so that every time their function is called on the blockchain, they can make money. So you can create a smart module, you can deploy it on-chain on the Hyperverse, and if it's a useful module, you can make money for the rest of your life because it's forever. That module is forever. So that's one thing in terms of open source monetization. But the other thing is we also solve the problem of security. In blockchain, typically when you have a smart contract, you get it audited. That audit might cost $250,000 to $500,000. It's very expensive, but there's no accountability. Like if there's a problem, auditor, has no accountability. What the model we are doing is we are having community auditors. So 10, 20, 30 of them all audit the same module. And if they believe in the code of that module, they can stake their tokens and as a form of security. So the more auditors that stake their tokens, the more assured you can be that that module is secure. And those auditors are putting their money at risk, which essentially acts as an insurance layer for software on the blockchain. And so with that model, people can trust that the modules that they find on the Hyperverse that are audited by lots of auditors are actually secure and therefore can be used without putting their money at risk. So we want to do this at scale for all blockchains. We are blockchain agnostic. And my goal is today, if you go and think about, hey, I want to build an app, the first word that comes to your mind is GitHub. You go there and you start finding code. A year from now, I want that if any developer anywhere for any blockchain thinks about building an app, they start with the Hyperverse. They go there, they put in their keywords, they find modules, they check a few boxes, hit go, and it spits out a brand new GitHub repository for them with all the source code they need, and all they need to do is add their special sauce. So that is where we are headed. So we did a $4.3 million seed round last year, and right now, this month, we're working on closing a $15 million strategic round, and then in a few months, we'll do a token sale.
OMG. Wow. Let me play this. This is for you. So in short, guys, you or any friends, sorry, we are continuing, Nick.
Oh, no. Thank you is all I was saying. Thank you very much.
So you or any friends of yours wants to hop onto Web3 and has a background of Java or any technology, you can hop on to Decentrology and just fly from there, go to the moon from there. They're making it so easy. And you just heard the rounds of funding they are receiving. They're growing very fast. And I love the aspect that the credibility is got in to the contract with the auditors having their own stake in that. So that is incredible. And Nick had given an example of the weathermen in the event. So weathermen give you analysis of the weather and it might change and they're not responsible for it, whatever happens. So contract audits and other audits in the technology was also similar, but with Web3 and that using the technology, for them to have their stakes in it, that is an ingenious idea. So kudos for that. So I'll just rewind the three initiatives and we'll open the stage for questions for Nick. So first was TryCrypto, a full women board organization to help onboard new participants in the Web3 space with innovative products and real examples, like practical examples of doing things rather than just watching videos or reading blogs. That is TryCrypto, number one. Number two is Nifty DAO. That is for, as most of us are artists here, there is something you need to into. I've pinned the tweets on top for all of these. You can focus more on creating art. There are fungible tokens on this, like the ape coins. As I'm just trying to simplify it in simplest word possible. So you can be community, you can be member of this DAO by holding those tokens. You can participate there. You don't have to worry about new platforms that are coming in. You can sell your works at different places. There will be people to evaluate the work. All the questions about pricing, marketing, and all that will be solved through the DAO. And I'm very excited for this one. We'll be seeing the roadmap and details in a couple of days, sometime soon. And he has given a brief in the tweet on top as well. Check that out. And Decentrology's new initiative of Hyperverse, the only Web3 destination for getting all things easy to build, everything streamlined, everything easy to adopt and to onboard, something better than GitHub, finding codes, and most of it is open source. And Nick is even giving bounty, like from the workshop. If you have a problem, you can solve and you can build on it. You can solve on it in a couple of days. Write that contract in. You can find the links on their link. I'll just put it up on top. And you can submit your ideas. You can start earning right away. You can start and you'll keep earning royalties once that is launched. So do check that out definitely. Yes, with that said, if you have any questions for Nick, please raise your hand and we will ask Nick. All right. So till anyone is asking questions, yes, Scarlett. So intro to Scarlett. Scarlett is a co-host today. She is a cancer survivor. Just at the age of 18, she got cancer and she has survived that and she is actively participating in the space. Yes, Scarlett, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Tanmay. I'm so glad to be back here. And I'm so happy. Like, I actually met Nick in the Namaste NFT for the day one and day two. I kept along and couldn't meet you and everyone. But I attended the workshop they had, like all the workshops with Niharika, Radhika, and everything. And I am interested in IT a lot. So I had this question after I came from the workshop. I sincerely started learning programming now, developing, because it was so amazing seeing everyone and the fact that told this is all women. In that workshop, Niharika was like a queen over there, when she was speaking, and I had a huge crush on her, and I was like, I need to get to know her. I want to ask, like, for a beginner in developing, how do you get started, like, in Decentrology? What do you suggest? Do we go for Decentrology or TryCrypto? Because I'm completely new and I do take codes from GitHub these days. Like, yeah, I just take a code from GitHub. And how do I get started? What do I need to do?
Hey, thanks for asking that question, and I appreciate that you take the time to come to those workshops. Yeah, this is a tough question. So I can kind of simplify it. TryCrypto is intended to be for people who want to learn about crypto. Just try it. Our goal is not to keep users on TryCrypto. Our goal is to onboard users and then have them move along to whatever it is that they want to do in the space. So if you know nothing about crypto at all and you're like, well, I don't understand what this fuss is all about, you would end up going to TryCrypto. Now, I just want to step back and say that, all of these projects are in various states, but they are mostly all new. So don't expect miracles at this point. We are looking for feedback. We are working actively on it. And some are more advanced than others because Decentrology, for example, is way more advanced. We have a 16-person team, and we've partnered with pretty much every major blockchain. TryCrypto is just new. It's just getting off the ground right now. The team just formed and came up with this vision and made the wireframes. So it's still in development. And Nifty DAO has a lot of energy behind it, and we've organized Namaste NFT. We've organized a whole bunch of things, but the actual DAO is also kind of forming right now. So getting back to your question, you would use TryCrypto if you wanted an intro to crypto in general, and you would use the Hyperverse if you were a web developer interested in building Web3 apps, or if you were a proficient smart contract developer, you could build the modules that those web developers could consume. So we are at the point right now where we are announcing bounties for the smart contract developers to build some of these modules. So we've got some of the modules now, like we've got your basic NFT module, we've got a fungible token, etc. But we want to build a large number of modules. So that's coming from the smart module devs and bounties. We're going to do about $1 million worth of bounties. And then very shortly, probably toward the middle of June, I would say, we're going to have these things called fast camps. And that's where we will unlock for JavaScript developers. You come to a fast camp, it's about 60 to 90 minutes, I'm going to say. And that's it. You can get going then and start building your apps. You can, in our Discord, ask for help. The way we are approaching our go-to-market is we want to make sure that we are building modules, smart modules that are useful for developers. And so for that reason, we are partnering with companies that have large-scale projects that they are building. And we are essentially decomposing their project builds and having bounties for those modules. So I'll give you an example. For example, we are doing the Australian League, which is kind of like an NBA Top Shot kind of thing. It's a fairly large sport in Australia. So we're building that on the Hyperverse. We are partnering with a gaming studio in LA to do GameFi. And so we're building a bunch of games on the Hyperverse. So we are partnering with some music partners to build music-related NFTs, etc. So there's various different domains where we are partnering with companies to actually bring their project to life, which will be built on Hyperverse. And in doing so, they will be seeding in the Hyperverse of these smart modules, which have found use in one application, and so they will be usable in other applications also. So to answer your question, I think a good thing to do is to hop on our Discord, which is discord.gg/Deontology. Let yourself be known, And if you are of the type of person who likes to, write about stuff, blog about stuff, etc., we are looking for community ambassadors to join our initiative and start getting them, essentially make them the early adopters of this, so that they can learn and then talk about it more. Our Hyperverse is also transitioned to a DAO. We don't think that this platform can be successful being run, by a centralized company. So we are transitioned to a DAO, and as I mentioned, we'll do a token drop in Q3. And so this will be very, very open and community driven. So fast camps will be the way you can get in, but you can get in even sooner if you want to be a community ambassador. And by the way, since you like Niharika, she leads the community ambassador program. I'm happy to tell her to ping you if you're interested.
Absolutely. Like when the workshop was there, I was fresh out of surgery and I couldn't actually wait a long time at the time. But Niharika was like, join in Discord, and Mariana, I remember her, the way she was so motivating and telling me, come to the Discord and ask your questions. We'll be there to support you. If you don't just DM me. And that was what made me feel like I need to be part of this, the team, the support. So yeah, it's a long term and I know it's going to be amazing. So glad you're from the start. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I already pinged Niharika and told her that she should reach out to you.
Yay, awesome. So happy for you. We'll ask Money. Money owns NFT, then we'll hear from Walid.
Hello, hi there, Tanmay. Hi, Scarlett. Thank you for hosting this space. How are you guys doing this beautiful morning?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I am good too. I just saw your space and I joined. It's always so informative, and I just wanted to thank you, Nick. And I was listening and trying to understand whatever he has to say. Although some of that went above my head, but I think you are doing a really great job, and thank you so much for presenting us with this kind of platform.
Many things are very complex for hearing for the first time. It took me also time to understand all these things. So do follow all these 3 handles and Nick's handle, the 4th handle, and see all the tweets on top. With time, you'll get a better idea on this. So yes, thank you for coming and sharing. Walid.
Hey guys, how you doing? Tanmay, Scarlett, Lily. Had a couple of questions for Nick, if cool. Nick, I have 2 questions. I think I forgot the second, but anyways, the first one is when you're building the Hyperverse blocks, is there a way to do this where a person that can't code like myself, I don't know how to code, but I'm able to sort of copy and paste stuff into stuff like WordPress or stuff like that. I'm able to build my own stuff just by sort of reading the code and copying and pasting. But recently, there's services with Manifold and Third Web with like an interface to build your smart contract easily for somebody that can't code. Is there something like that that's coming with Hyperverse where I don't need to know how to code? I can build my stuff on my website and just have people interact with a contract with a service that I want to use. That's the first question. Second question is with mass adoption. I for some reason I personally don't see Ethereum as the chain for a huge mass adoption just because of the gas fees required to close a transaction. So I'm looking at with companies to think about ticketing, for example. So will these Lego blocks be available for other chains like Solana, Tezos, and all that, so we can build there and for stuff to be available for mass adoption with 1 cent gas fees?
Thanks for those questions, Walid. So to answer question number 1, in terms of making these Lego blocks essentially without a no-code kind of solution, we don't feel like it's our place to do that. We'd like instead some developer to propose that, and we'll pay them. We'll pay them a bounty to build that out. Our value proposition is entirely on chain with the Hyperverse smart modules. So anything people want to do at the UI end to make it even easier, we are happy to support that and even pay to get that built. But I don't know that that should be an initiative of the DAO, the Hyperverse DAO, because we need to focus on making sure that the core modules are built, the monetization strategy is there, and the security strategy is there. Anything else on top, like UI, other people should build, and we actually want to create an ecosystem. This is not unlike the ecosystem I built with my past company with a nice, wonderful community. Co-founders, it was called DNN.net Nuke. It was an open source CMS in the Microsoft stack. And so, the core open source software was the platform itself, and everything else on top of it was created by third companies. And this actually led to hundreds, even thousands of companies making their living, and employing other people through building those kind of tools and, making money. So we want the Hyperverse to similarly, cause an ecosystem to be built around it. And so a no-code solution, as you are describing, would be perfect. Company who has expertise in that area to come forward and say, hey, we want to build this, we approximate the cost of it to be X, and then we'll spit up the bounty for it and make it happen. So yeah, that's the question one. And the second question is, Hyperverse is blockchain agnostic. So currently we are supporting Ethereum on multiple EVMs, including Metis, Polygon. We'll probably add Avalanche also soon. And just about any other EVM. We are supporting Flow. We are supporting Algorand. We will add support for Solana. One of the things that we look at is also how well our relationship is with that protocol's founding team or development team, and if they will give us the resources we need, which is primarily lots of attention, because some of the stuff gets very complicated at a technical level to get the multi-tenancy and other things built. And so the ones that have been more forthcoming and giving us support are the ones who are being onboarded first onto the Hyperverse. But our goal is to take every popular blockchain and have it represented on there. And in fact, within the DAO, we will have these different protocol working groups. So every protocol will have its own working group. That way, every protocol can advance at its own level. So if a particular protocol has GameFi as its primary audience, then we will build more gaming modules on there. But if it's DeFi, then we will DeFi modules on there. But the community can deal with that. So yeah. We're definitely blockchain agnostic and plan on having it supported by multiple chains.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. That answers it. Thank you.
Thank you, Walid, for your question, and Nick for answer. So all blockchain, all kind of developers are welcome here. Definitely do check it out, guys. Cypher, you have your hands up. What would you like to share? What would you like to ask?
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for conducting this space, Tanmay. It's once again useful for you usually conduct spaces which is useful. And I have a question for Nick. I have heard him speak once in Marian's space, I think so. Yeah, explaining about Deontology and the Nifty DAO and everything. And while hearing to that, I was so mesmerized by this idea of staking. Like you get your art sold and you get paid in the tokens, and you can stake that tokens, and after a period of time you can get to paid equally. That was a great idea, which I don't know how to put it in words. But the question is like as an artist, I don't have like a coder kind of mind, but I have ideas and I know how to put things into paper like art. So I'm that kind of guy. So after being into NFT space, I had this like many of people speaking like you can get your art sold in Tezos, but it may be cheap. And And if you want to get more money, you should hop onto like OpenSea or even more like Foundation and even more like Super Rare. If you have this stuff. So like if I'm going to get get my art sold out through Decentrology and get paid through tokens. And I just want to know how the money value will be like. So that's what my question is. I don't know if I'm correct.
All right, thanks for your question. So I see the problem I create because I'm working on multiple ventures. There's always a crossover, and people conflate one or two projects together. So your question has nothing to do with Decentrology. That's for developers. Your question is about the Nifty Dreams DAO that we are working on and that model. So I would just like to step back and talk about art for a second. I know that a lot of artists are coming into this space in very large numbers because they are drawn to this idea of making a living. And I have been on the record saying this again and again. They are going to be very, very disappointed for the simple reason that only 1.5% of artists actually have a sale. The market is just not there. There aren't enough buyers. The collectors are very small number. And then the rest of it is artists buying each other's art. And so this is not a sustainable thing. So if you're in this space right now and you're just bouncing from marketplace to marketplace and trying to make a decision like that, really, you're wasting your time. It doesn't matter what you do. There are not enough buyers. So it's not the solution. Even if you do get a sale, that doesn't indicate anything. Statistically, there are not enough buyers. And so you might have a fluke. You might be lucky and get a sale or something like that. But so this is what the Nifty Dreams DAO is about. It's about stepping back and putting art first. We have reached a point right now where all these Twitter spaces, etc., it's just people trying to sell, and that is not art. That is in my mind, sort of almost disrespectful to art, because we are talking about sales first and art second. And I feel like we need to flip that. We need to be talking more about art techniques, about innovation in the NFT space. We need to be talking about what inspires us. How can artists collaborate on a large scale? Because it is possible with this medium for artists to collab, etc., instead of working individually. And I'm not talking about collectives, which are just aggregating, again, individuals. I'm talking about actual collabs where 5, 10 different numbers of artists create some amazing innovation. Because you have to remember that right now we are using NFTs in the most boring way possible as just a token. NFTs are built on one of the world's most sophisticated platforms created yet, the blockchain. It is a computing platform with a lot of power. Smart contracts have a lot of power, and we don't use any of that. So these are all problems that I don't expect artists to solve. But at the same time, it's the mindset that's important. And the mindset right now is everyone is thinking about how the heck do I get a sale and make money? And I want to dial back things and have people start thinking about, let's not worry about the money right now. I get it. You need to pay your rent. I get it. You need to pay for food. I get that. But the fact is that just focusing on sales is not going to cause sales to occur. It's not going to cause new collectors to miraculously appear. What is going to move the needle is if we start working together and focus on the art and innovation, so we can genuinely and truly disabuse people of this notion that NFTs are just JPEGs. Because quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about what other people say, but it is that right now, right? NFTs are just JPEGs right now. There's nothing more about it. Because what would it take for it not to be a JPEG? Well, it would require you to have a mechanism by which your art was in fact unique and certifiable and not duplicatable and all of those kind of parameters. That doesn't exist right now. Literally, as a collector, I have thousands and thousands of NFTs. You know what I own? A bunch of random numbers. That's it. And I'm under no illusion that I'm going to make any money of it. I buy art to support artists, knowing full well that I will never, ever, ever make a dime of that. I don't intend to. I just buy it and it sits in my account. But what is sitting in my account is a bunch of random numbers, because that's what NFTs are, a random number on a blockchain. The art associated with it, the link, is maybe on IPFS, which is, again, still not durable. There is no guarantee that you as the artist cannot just go and duplicate and mint that somewhere else. There are no such assurances, right? So we are at the sort of most nascent part of this whole NFT journey, and none of these things are in place. Meanwhile, everyone is joining this space and obsessed with it. And I'm saying that that's the wrong mindset. That mindset guarantees failure. That's it. There's nothing else there's nothing else that can come out of that other than failure. If you want to be successful in this space, you gotta step back and start thinking about innovation, about collaboration, and about really, really making art first, putting art first, and helping the larger population understand it. And because this is not a feat that any individual can do, that's the purpose of Nifty Dreams DAO. So I know I didn't answer your question, but what I'm telling you is about the reason that I have moved forward with this Nifty Dreams DAO. At this point, after having sponsored sort of the conference, a bunch of challenges, etc., I have skin in the game. I have over 350,000, probably close to $500,000 in this that I have invested, and I'll continue to invest more because I think this can be big. But every artist who comes to me and says, "Hey, how do I sell, etc.," I have already turned off my brain. I'm not listening to them anymore because they are the wrong mindset. But when an artist comes in and asks me, "Hey, what's this NFT technology about? How can I innovate? What can I do? Can I team up with someone?" I will give them all the time in the world. I'm all over them. They are my best friend. But the questions like the speakers, that's a turn-off question for me because it's not working. It's not working. And if you need evidence, go to OpenSea and do a data analysis. I've done it, and I can tell you 1.5% of artists, and that number is shrinking actually, make sales. It's a non-starter.
Amazing. Nick just shared what all concerns were in our mind and what we all artists have in the central of our process in the whole NFT space. So more than sales, guys, think about innovation, think about collaboration, and let us use this power of chain and NFT to create much, much more. So thanks for the question, Nick. Amaze. Thanks for the insights. Yes, anybody else would like to ask the question, please raise your hand. And those who have already spoken, if you have nothing to share more, it will be awesome to step down. There are huge number of requests today, so it'll be great. Thank you. So Nick, about the IPFS, people are not aware about this technology. So basically what it does is, what NFT is without, wait, let me rephrase. On OpenSea, when we create NFTs, as Nick was mentioning, it is just a string of numbers. It is just who purchased from whom at what time. And the actual NFT as we know it, the image file, the media file, the properties, the description, all that is stored somewhere else. If you don't freeze the metadata, it is on the Google Drives or Amazons of OpenSea. It is still centralized. If you freeze it, then it becomes decentralized, as similar to blockchain. So many computers have it, and if OpenSea goes down, your NFT won't be affected. It can be retrieved from other platforms, other sites, just like what happened with Hiketnunk in November of 2021. Hiketnunk went down, but it had automatically saved the metadata and the files on IPFS or decentralized storage. So we were able to retrieve the data from object.com or other places. But now, as Nick pointed out, there's another concern with IPFS. Who is paying their bill? How for IPFS to sustain, somebody has to pay the bills, and that's another network, right? And another thing about security, that it is public. So anyone else can mint it from that data, which is open. So Nick, what do you think is the future of this decentralized storage? Because storing media on blockchain would be very expensive, because we are just playing for blocks in the bit size, and our data files are in megabytes and GBs altogether. So it becomes very expensive. Gas will be much higher. Hence, we use IPFS. But the situation I just explained, Nick, what do you think is the solution to this, and how do we go forward from here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd like to back up by making sure that everyone has a baseline understanding of how these NFT contracts work, and then I'll get into your question. So fundamentally, let's stick with Ethereum because that's what most people are working with, but the same concept applies everywhere else. You can have a smart contract that conforms to a certain specification. There are two primary specifications, one called ERC 721 and the other one called ERC 1155. ERC stands for Ethereum Request for Comments. That's how standards come into play on Ethereum, but that's not important. It's just a name. So the 721 format basically is how NFTs are created. And it's actually quite simple. If you look at what an ERC 721 smart contract consists of, at the end of the day, it's basically two columns, an address and a number. So that address is who owns, and the number is what is the token ID that's owned. It's got one other field. That field is a URL, a link, if you will, that points to where the data associated with that particular token is stored. So in this case, the data would be a picture or an MP4 or something like that. In the contract, there are a couple of other functions like allowing you to transfer stuff from one account to the other, etc. But the best way for you to think about an ERC 721 contract is a spreadsheet with two columns. One has an address and one has a number. And then for all of those, there's a link. And if you use that link and just plug in a token number, it will give you the image associated with it. That's it. It's really that. There is no complexity to it. So now, when you are creating a collection of yours on OpenSea or anything like that, if you recollect the first time you do that, you have to pay gas. That's because you're creating a copy of their contract for you. So as long as that contract exists, you don't need OpenSea. OpenSea is just a fancy UI. It's got a few bells and whistles and a few smoke and mirrors, etc. But you do not need OpenSea. You do not need Foundation. You do not need any of that as long as you have your contract, which is on-chain. It is there forever. And as an artist, you should go to Etherscan, plug in your address in there, and look at your contract. You should see in your contract all the assets you have minted, all who owns each of your etc. This is important for you to look at. So I'll stick with 721. 1155 is similar. It's just a combination of non-fungible and fungible. It's an evolution of it. But vast majority of NFTs are using ERC 721. So when someone says, like my OpenSea account got shut down or whatever, no big deal. Just go import that contract into some other platform and you're back in the business. However, there is one problem when OpenSea does block an account, which has happened to a lot of Iranian artists and others. Everybody that displays NFTs, like literally everybody, uses the OpenSea API, the preface. And so if OpenSea is blocking someone, their API also blocks it, which is one of the reasons that one of the first tech projects the DAO is going to do is create an open API that does not block random people for being, in a country that the US government has sanctioned or something like that. That's just ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. So getting back to your question. So the ERC 721 contract has two columns. Who owns a token and what that token is. The actual sort of image, etc., is at the link, right? Now that link can be on anything. It's just a standard web link. It could point to Google, and very embarrassingly, even now, for a lot of projects, OpenSea still points to Google User Cloud, which is just so unthinkably embarrassing. I don't even know how they would allow that. At minimum, they could have shown people the respect of using their own URL for that versus Google User Cloud in there. But they chose to be completely lazy, which is apparent from their handling of UI, etc. I have nothing nice to say about OpenSea. They're a bunch of thugs. Anyway, incompetent thugs too. anyway, getting back to IPFS, right? So IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. It's it's essentially a decentralized storage system. The way it works is, when you have a URL on the web right now, like maybe it says www.yourname.com/something. That's called a URL, and it points to some file or it points to a web page, etc. So that's called essentially URL addressable content. IPFS is unique in that the content has an address. It's called a hash, and that is all you need in order to be able to find the content on the IPFS network. Now, the IPFS network is essentially a bunch of people who have set up an IPFS server and said, hey, we make this available to you. They might have different limitations on each server, etc. But if you have an IPFS hash and you enter it on one of these servers, it is going to go query around every server until it finds one that has it, and then it's going to copy it and it's going to show it to you. So you can already see what the problem is. The first problem is speed. Like if your IPFS hash, the content that you're trying to get to, is not on a server that you're using, it has to go looking all over the internet to find it, and there's a process for that. It works, but it's very, very slow. The second problem is that in IPFS, there's this concept called pinning. So if you were to just add your image or whatever, for your art, for your NFT to any arbitrary IPFS server, it will stay on there for 24 hours. And then there'll be something called garbage collection that occurs, and it'll get wiped out. However, this can be avoided if you are paying the person who's running that server to what's called pin that. So pinning basically says, don't delete this when garbage collection occurs, leave it there. So OpenSea and other marketplaces are paying some IPFS service to pin your artwork. That's the reason it exists. That is not durable, though. The moment their agreement lapses or they stop paying, then your art will be unpinned. And IPFS works on the premise of at least one node having the content for it to be discoverable. The moment 0 nodes have your content, it is gone forever. So that link you have in your contract is now a completely garbage, worthless link. It points to nothing. So this is a problem that everyone is hand waving or this like, it's fine, it's all there. No, there is no good solution to it. The only way to solve this problem is to have a large number of, if we choose to continue to use IPFS, because that's not the only game in town. There's Arweave, there is Skynet. There's a whole bunch of other decentralized technologies, all at different levels of adoption. So the way to solve this problem is to have a consortium, meaning a group of DAOs that collectively, not just one, but maybe 5, 10 of them, collectively taking the responsibility of hosting this content so that any one of them can disappear off the face of the earth and the others would still be around. So a consortium-based approach is the only one that I think would work. Anytime you have just an entity owning it, they can stop paying the bills at any time, and then the content goes poof, gone forever. So I believe like that's going to be another initiative, we're going to take on with the DAO. But I recognize that if we try and do too many things all at once, we're going to fail miserably. So we want to make sure that in our season 0 and season 1, we pick the hardest problems to solve and focus on those, and then go on to solve these other problems. And the hardest problem we have chosen to solve in season 0 of the Nifty Dreams DAO is to create a project that we are calling NiftyMe.org. And I can talk about that later if you'd like. But in terms of IPFS, we need to have a consortium of DAOs or collectives, etc., that all collectively have their own node that essentially is cloning all the content across all these nodes, so that you pay for your IPFS node. It has all the content from sort of all the other nodes, and we can be assured that no one of them, if they fail, it won't affect everybody. So hopefully I answered your question. I'm sorry, I take so
absolutely
long to answer questions because I try and give like the baseline information also.
Thank you very much for the baseline information. You explained that in such simple terms, and everyone could understand that. And that idea is brilliant, and that I love the solution about the consortium. So basically, everyone, all the artists, we can pay the bills of IPFS, and there can be a collaboration. There can be something where we can directly pay that and make sure that our NFTs are safe for years and ages to come. I just have one question about IPFS. Then we want to hear about your core problem that you're solving. So you mentioned about Arweave as IPFS alternative. One of my friend works there. They claim that you can pay upfront. You don't need to pay recurring fees or recurring rent, but you can pay upfront and use for lifelong. How is it possible to pay upfront? How do they maintain the technology? Could you explain on
Yeah,
the Arweave?
sure. Yeah, so every one of these storage protocols has a different mechanism by which they incentivize people to keep the data online. With Arweave, I believe you pay up front and they're promising 200 years. No one has tested that because no one has been around for 200 years to try it out. So we don't know if it will work or not. So I think at the end of the day, all of these have to be evaluated, and the marketplaces have to make a decision on which platform is likely to succeed the most. You have to pick the horse you think is going to win this, because right now it's very early and it's very competitive. There are actually also some blockchains like Scale, etc., that claim to have the data storage built into the chain itself. So it's not like directly in the Merkle tree, the data structure that's used for storing data, but the blockchain itself handles larger data storage things, etc. So these are, everyone is aware of this problem. So there's lots of smart people working on this problem, and a solution will emerge. But it's important for people to realize that right now, it's just a lot of smoke and mirrors. Your NFT is really not what you think it is today. It is a very brittle, a very fragile, and a highly replicable, copyable, non-durable thing. So if you're under the illusion that making an NFT and minting it makes this thing that lasts forever and cannot be copied or etc., then I'm very sorry to break your bubble on that. It's not true at all today. It will be. That's the vision. So I don't want to say that, I don't want to sound negative about it. I just want to be candid and say that it's not what it is today. It will be there someday, but that's not today.
Okay, there are many problems to solve. So Nick, what is the core issue that you mentioned that in level 0 of the Nifty DAO that we are solving?
Yeah. So I started off with explaining that we need more buyers. We need mainstream users to understand what NFTs are and to open up their wallets. If this movement is going to take off, if that doesn't happen, guess what's going to happen? At some point, every one of the artists on there has a breaking point of how long they will wait and be patient for someone to acquire their art. Otherwise, they'll go back to just drawing, as a hobby or whatever. What's the point of getting into this ecosystem, etc.? The community is great. Meeting new friends is great. Getting exposure to new art is great. But if I'm not mistaken, a lot of artists are in this space because they see an opportunity to make a livelihood from their art. And if that doesn't happen, then why bother, right? So I want to help that. I want to make that a reality. And a second thing is, I'm on the record as saying, you have wealthy engineers, wealthy stockbrokers, wealthy doctors, wealthy architects, but you always have starving artists. I want to change that. I want to create wealthy artists also. So all of that can be solved in only one way. If we can get mainstream users in the millions and even in the billions to start understanding what NFT art is about, to get on board the crypto bandwagon, and to start acquiring this art. This is going to require artists to reframe their thinking. It is not they need to think about the new economy, the new Web3 economy, and think about tokenomics and the value of a token and how it can replace, money in the sense of dollars and ETH and all that kind of stuff. Like there are some interesting things we can do to incentivize people by making these NFTs and these tokens work in concert to unlock and make the vision of NFTs a reality. I'll give you an example. If we partner with museums or we partner with galleries and we make it so holding an NFT that you procured from the Nifty Dreams DAO gives you access to New York MoMA or San Francisco MoMA. Like you just show that at the door and you're in. That's an in real life. That's the kind of, that is a very simplistic example, very basic. The most fundamental thing you can do with an NFT is use it as access to unlock something. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, where we create these in real life interactions and integrations so people don't think in terms of, oh, I only want to own this piece of art because I want it. You want the art, but you also want the benefit that comes along with it. You get to meet the artist one-on-one, maybe virtually. You get access to dated artworks in a live museum when you go there. You might be able to get a print-on-demand T-shirt with that artwork by just clicking a button. All these things can happen in an ecosystem that transforms what an NFT is. And that's kind of where we are going with Nifty Dreams, is to unlock millions and millions of users. So that is not going to be easy. I'm not a magician, and I am definitely not a miracle worker. I'm just an ordinary person who clearly sees the problem and clearly sees the solution. And I am going to try to implement the solution with everybody, because I can't do it alone. And the one thing about me is I am completely fearless about failure. I'm willing to go there and try it out. And if that doesn't work, try something else out. But we have to unlock millions of users, mainstream users. And so Nifty Me, the platform we're going to build, and what Nifty Me is going to do is essentially flip what we're doing right now. Marketplaces are a very sort of pull-based mechanism, which is why they're not working. Like OpenSea, etc., require someone to actually come there and make a purchase. We're going to flip the equation and make it push. So what that does is get more users, more eyeballs looking at it. So with Nifty Me, the basic model is, you start off with artists sort of conveying their artworks to the DAO. We'll have a curation team that looks at it, values it, and tells the artist, hey, we value your art at X. Do you want to convey it to the DAO? If the artist says yes, great. We'll move forward to the next step. If the artist says, you guys are full of shit, my art is worth a lot more, you guys are completely clueless, no, I'm going to go to OpenSea Foundation. And we say, good, great. We wish you much luck. Please let us know if we can support you in any way. So the artist conveys the art to the DAO. And now we have professional marketers who are collaborating with museums, galleries, organizing in real life events, all kinds of cross promotion with even consumer brands, etc., to create these. And with these projects and campaigns, your art, the art that's been conveyed to the DAO gets roped into one of these. And at some point, that art has a monetary value transition occur. So some buyer pays it. That buyer does not need to be an individual. It could be a company that licenses 50 of these for their products. It could be like there could be 100 different models that we will implement beyond just the individual buyer buying an NFT. So that's the power of the DAO. We can do that because we are going to have professional teams working on these kind of deals, etc. So now there's some money that makes its way to the artists. When their art is sold like that, they also earn tokens, and they can then stake those tokens and earn and have a portion of the staking pool of money, because the DAO will set aside from every sale about 10% will go into a pool, and any artist who stakes their tokens will take those tokens out of supply, and therefore raise the value of the remaining tokens. And for doing that, they earn essentially interest on this. So long story short, the biggest problem we want to solve is the demand problem. There is plenty of supply. The supply is growing every day. There is not enough demand. And we want to make it super simple through Nifty Me and other projects for stream users to understand NFTs and actually buy them with just their credit card. We don't want, if you have crypto, great, but we're going to make it possible for users to just buy this with their credit card. It's super simple, like drop dead simple for people to acquire NFTs.
Wow. Just listening to Nik, I feel that we are not alone individuals going out in the market and fighting for ourselves. This is the real visionary in the community. This is the flavor, or this is the feel of the real NFT community that we always talk about. Creating demand, making it easier for people to onboard and come join the NFTs, and the push system that he's talking about. This is something we all have in our minds, right? But Nik has clearly defined the problem and also has a clear solution for it. And I'm just so glad and happy to have somebody like Nik in this space. So guys, just let us show some hearts. Let us see some hearts for Nik, and you can open your mics and do claps as well. Thank you. So I'm sure Nazim has a question related to this, and we'll go to other people who have raised their hands. What we usually do in this space is we go as per people who have joined in, but looking at amazing conversation we have. If you have anything related to the conversation, please pull your hand up and put your hand up, and I will ask you to go ahead and share. So Nazim, please go ahead.
Thank you, Tanmay, for hosting this space. Hi, everybody. Hi, Nik. Hope you have had a flight back. Looking forward to your project. I have a question. Is it possible at this moment to buy Nifty Dreams token?
Hey, thanks, Naseem. No, the Nifty Dreams token will come later. So let me tell you the order of operations here. The order of operations is we publish the season 0 plan. We get some community feedback, then we finalize it. We then start filling all the slots for the various guilds and start getting them organized. And at the same time, we are going to do a drop for benefactors. We are calling them benefactors because we want the Nifty Dreams DAO to resemble real life museums, galleries, etc., that have benefactor circles and things like that. So right now, I'm tentatively thinking that we'll try and raise around $2 million or so, and that would be the operating capital. And then we will do an airdrop with the Nifty D token. So I already announced at the Namaste NFT conference that I did a recent kind of thing where artists posted their picture in one word. I forget the name of the campaign, but everyone who submitted something there will get airdrop tokens. And I'll figure out a way to get everyone who's ever participated in any kind of challenge or whatever to get an airdropped token. But ultimately, you earn tokens when you convey your art to the DAO. And so we expect that this will step up and be willing to do that. So that will be the token. However, that token will be locked initially. This is not for people who want to do a pump and dump or a flip or whatever. This is a long-term play, and if you're not in it for the long term, then this token is of no value to you. So the initial airdrop tokens, etc., will be locked for a period of time, and then we start focusing on making that token valuable. We have to do it together. I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. We have to work together to make that token valuable. And as that token becomes valuable and it gets more unlocked, then the DAO itself will start providing liquidity for that token. We'll be the first liquidity provider on Uniswap. We'll start buying back those tokens and make it possible for people to start earning a good living from them. I get asked all the time about how will I make money from the token, and will I be able to have a monthly salary, etc. I don't know all the answers to those questions. What I do know is that if we work together, that token can appreciate in value. It can be desirable by professional crypto investors. It can be desirable by museums, by guests, by endowments, by foundations, by venture capitalists, etc. And the more demand we create for that token, the more the price goes up. It's kind of like ApeCoin or whatever else, ENS tokens, etc. You create something of value, and the token represents that value. And if we collectively fail and do a miserable job at that, then the token's going to have no value. But I would hope that's not the case. But so I would expect, like, one of the main things I want to do is I'm speaking at NFT NYC, and my talk is about this. And I'd like very much for the token to be launched before that, because I can use that talk as sort of a good way to raise awareness about the DAO and what we are doing, and get more people at one of the world's most premier NFT events to pay attention to us. So I would expect that within the next month or so we should have the token, but again, it'll be locked.
Thank you for info. That makes sense. And my last question, is there any website for your project? Somehow my attempt to join your Discord wasn't successful, so I was just looking to see, is there any website for it?
We'll get a website spun up. There's people working on it right now. I'm interested in knowing why you couldn't join the Discord. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We have quite a number of people who've joined, so I'd like to look into that.
I'm going to try from my laptop. Actually, I tried a few times before, like a few months ago as well, and I'm wondering maybe it's because of my mobile, and so I'm just going to try from my laptop. But I would just I was interested to know, is there any website or not, but it's going to be launched. Thank you very much.
We'll get a website stood up, but honestly, in true Web3 fashion, the website's just going to be a landing page. All the action's going to be in the Discord, and later as we launch the Nifty project. But please DM me. I will be happy to explore or connect you with someone who can work with you to figure out why you cannot get into Discord.
Thank you very much. You're right. I'm a bit old-fashioned, so Discord should work. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. So I dropped down. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nazim. Guys, action is in the Discord. Do check out those handles and join the Discord. And yes, I am openly willing to state that I am looking forward to support this in any ways possible with all my money and staking whatever I can. So I'm here, and we all are here for the long term. Nik, best wishes to you. And with that, I want to ask Sakshi, and then we'll hear from Urvi and then Aliens. Yes, Sakshi.
Hi guys. Hi Scarlett, Lil, Nick. How are you guys? How are you doing?
Wonderful. How are you? What would you like to share? What would you like to ask?
So currently, I just have one question going on. Like, we're talking, let's say, next month or a month and a half or 2 months in the future, right? But for now, the people who are onboarding and are putting out new work platforms, I had a simple question. How important is it to have your own contract, let's say through Manifold or Third Web? Like, these are the two options I can think of off of my head. But how important is it to start with these and also like a hardware wallet? Because it's just simpler for most people to just go to OpenSea or even Foundation now because it's open, and just kind of, list your stuff and go from there. A lot of us make that mistake. Point A is building community. Point B is essentially knowing the safest option and possibly the best option. But according to you, for now, for the next 2 months, let's say, and the future, what is the safest way for somebody to move forward with their work as an NFT, as
Yeah, that's
and like
a very good question, Sakshi. Honestly, I'm perplexed by why artists are just doing this solo. It's so much easier if a group of artists got together and gave themselves a name, created a collection, and as a group, worked with a single contract on Manifold or whatever. I have previously tweeted about using a Gnosis multi-sig wallet so that no one person can have undue control over that. But to me, it comes back to like flying solo is expensive and not as much. Not as marketable as if you were a group. So to newcomers entering the space, even things like using some of these platforms to use your own contract, etc., is a hard challenge. It's not easy. They're just trying to figure out what to do here. So I almost feel like going with the marketplace might be the best option right now. Maybe you start off with minting, one of your artworks, see how it goes, understand how you can market and do some of those things. But again, there are hardly any collectors, so you're going to end up just waiting. There is the market. First of all, we're in a bear market, so even the minimal number of collectors that were there are probably also sitting on the sidelines right now. So one of the things they say is they have a bear market, you build. So versus going and minting right now. So forget about Nifty Dreams. If that concept didn't exist right now, we are in a bear market. And is it time to list, to mint? I don't know. If it was me, I would not. I would be figuring out and learning more about the space. I would be understanding more about what innovations exist, and I would be educating myself in this time versus going and minting, which gives me this sort of it's almost the same fake sort of dopamine hit that you get from social media likes, etc. They're worthless, right? Social media literally worthless. They're just a vanity, an ego kind of dopamine hit. So you might get that vanity or whatever, like, hey, I got my work listed, blah blah blah. But what's going to be worse after you do that is the long wait and the whole downhill disappointment journey you're going to go through, because for most people that's what's going to happen. If you're prepared for that, then go ahead and mint. But if not, I would look at the data. I follow the data, and the data tells me right now that if I'm a new artist and I'm coming into the space, I should actually spend my time learning more and educating myself about the space, building relationships, and figuring out how I can move the needle versus just going and minting, because that's not going to make me any money. I know that's a really terrible answer. If you didn't want to hear that, I know that.
No. I 100% agree. No, it's not only the truth, it's also in general, like when it wasn't the bear market, even in general, also you can't it's like if anybody ever over here has been to Sarojini Market in Delhi, it's come at you with like these fake watches or like whatever bags and stuff, and then they shove it up your face and they're like, you want to buy this? Or I'd like to sell this. And it's a very basic concept that you are not going to get a sale with shoving anything up anyone's face anywhere. Never. You have to come into a space and familiarize, make friends, have some sort of relationship, and only then will somebody be curious enough to look at what you're selling. It could be anything. And then from there onwards, you can build, depending on your product, depending on those, again, there has to be buyers. Like, it's so many, but you cannot expect to just come up, which is a mistake even I made. And I see a lot of other young artists who are just coming into the space. Because it's so fast paced, they believe that they're going to miss out if they don't deploy something immediately as soon as they enter the space. I think that's very counteractive. But again, you clarified on the having your own contract thing is basically it doesn't make that much of a difference right now. It just you can just probably play around and see what kind of works out for you, right? Or my question was basically, is it very important from the get-go to have your sort of contract and your platform in a way, like your own website with your own contract, like it adds on to the work and a hardware wallet. But is it that important, or is it okay to like you said, come out and just test the waters?
Yeah, you can see none of the artists I know who are minting, they're so new to the space. They're not doing any custom, like crazy metadata. They're not doing any events. They're not doing any triggers. They're not doing anything dynamic with the NFTs, etc. So then just use the static, boring contract. Either way, you have, ownership of it. So what does it matter? Now, don't conflate that with the hardware. That's a whole separate thing. The hardware wallet is essentially a security thing. Like, one of the reasons that people say they got hacked is they clicked on a link, and because the private MetaMask is secured with just a password, it's encrypted with that. As soon as someone has that password, they have you type it in somewhere or etc. They can decrypt your private key and you're done. The hardware wallet ensures that it is not possible for someone to phish you or scam you that way, because you have to actually enter the PIN code, or it might be a fingerprint or something on the hardware device. It is a little inconvenient, but what you can do is keep your prized possessions in an account that is associated with the hardware device, and keep your day-to-day, small activities, whatever DApp activities, etc., in MetaMask.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's something I'm also transitioning into. And in general, it's just good to know that you have to start off with these things just to be safe in the space. So thank you, Nick. And thank you, Tanmay, Scarlett, Lil, for having this space, guys.
Thank you, Sakshi. It was wonderful to meet you at Namaste NFT as well. So I'll just highlight a couple of points that Nick mentioned. It's a bear market. Use this time more to find out what innovations are happening around, how more you can make use of this Web3 as technology. I will share a couple of things that I am interested and I'm in doing. There's a website called async.art. In that, artists can create NFTs that change with time. I'm working on NFT that changes with time, 24 hours, 24 variations. It can work as a clock. You can also, there's a blueprints in there, so you can create your own different versions of them. They have 2-3 kind of variations and new ways of creating those NFTs. So I definitely suggest everyone to have a look at that. Apart from this, there is one thing on Tezos as well. It's called Zim, ZIM or something, in which you can create interactive NFTs. So you hover your mouse over the NFT and it will change colors, or the whole configuration of the NFTs can change with the viewer's actions to it. So that is something very interesting. And if somebody knows of those kind of things for Ethereum platform, do let me know. Let us discuss that and let's collaborate on that. So no need for coding. These platforms are providing that. So yes, thank you, Nick, once again. And Sakshi, that was a nice question. Let us hear from Urvi now. Hi, Urvi.
So good to work in this space. And it's so nice to hear you after back-to-back IIM in Mumbai. So I'll directly on the question, I'm...
Urvi, your voice is not very clear.
A minute. Is it clear
If
now?
you're using, yeah, better.
Yeah. So I'll come down to question is a lot of speakers are waiting that is I'm a hardcore artist and I see that the space we are talking about the programming developers, smart contracts and everything. I want to ask Nick that in NFT dreams as you will be collecting many artist works and you will be evaluating and the company DAO will be evaluating and all. I want to ask if is there any criteria where we can be associated with NFT dreams, a part of just giving the artwork, but in a larger term or in a longer way or something like that, or we can be a part of the graphics or something like that. Is there any plan or is there any thing which is coming out like this?
Hey, Urvi, good to hear from you again. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there's all these guilds that we will be announcing. We will be putting a call for people to fill in the slots. So every guild, like maybe there's a marketing guild, there's a strategy guild, there's an events guild, there is a curation guild. There's last I looked, there were about 11 guilds on there. So all of those guilds are going to have a lead, multiple co-leads, and then team members, and they will have to actually work on and execute tasks associated with the guild. Now, initially, those will be in true open source format, completely voluntary. So this is very much modeled after open source project DAOs are. So initially, it'll be voluntary, but then as people prove those, etc., in the future there will be a token-based compensation also for people. So it could be your job, and indeed you could make money working on the DAO aside from your art itself. You will be working to help all artists worldwide and do some of these projects. So, for example, if we decide that we are going to build, let's say, an AR application to allow the creation of virtual street galleries or exhibitions, then we need developers, we need designers, we need UX people, we need product managers, we need pretty much all the roles that exist in the world. There's going to be some form or some guild that requires you to have it. But we gotta crawl before we can sprint here. So we'll start small and go from there. But yeah, absolutely, there's going to be lots of opportunities.
Oh wow! I mean, I'm really glad to hear this because, as you rightly said, I would like to be a part where I can inspire others because the artist is not just who is inspired, but who can also inspire others. So, with such a good motive of NFT dreams, it's not just I want to give my art, but I want to be a part of even in a tiny paint if I can contribute something. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward for it. I am in Discord, so I'm sure I'll get all the updates and all. Thanks again, Nick, for this space and for this so much you are doing for the artists. And Tanmay, thanks a lot. I love the way you put the pointers and of all the conversations so that we don't miss out anything. Thank you everyone for this.
Yeah, Uri, and one of the things that I think most people will start off with is that we'll have lots of community ambassadors. We will need people take on the role of essentially understanding how the DAO works, what the mechanism is, and why we will be successful, and then organizing lots of local events all over the world. We want to have thousands of meetups everywhere, and these community ambassadors are the ones who will essentially take a model and say, this is how you create a meetup, and this is how you market it, and this is how you welcome new people, etc. So I think a large number of people starting out as community ambassadors and just hosting online and IRL events to help onboard artists who have no idea what this space is about. Just essentially artists working offline right now, welcoming them into this new Web3 realm, and that's not gonna happen if we just market. It's gonna happen when they meet someone, they believe them, interact with them, they become their friend, and they welcome them on board. So I think a lot of you will end up being community ambassadors. In addition to other roles, that's not the only, you can be in multiple roles in the guild.
Thank you.
Just a minute, Tanmay. Sorry. So yeah, I'm really happy that a part of just collecting art or something, your main motto is also to educate the artists, as you really understand the pain artists go through when they're just into creating the stuff and not into programming or marketing or something like that. So I feel like I'm in a little safe bubble where I can get to learn the things also along with my artwork. So thank you so much, Nick, for such a good, thoughtful help for the artist, I can say. And yeah, thank you for having me on screen.
Thanks for coming and sharing, Urvi. Just highlighting again what Nick said. You can participate in the DAO, Nifty DAO in whatever ways you can. And from the community ambassador's point, I just visualized maybe if we have a model, like having experience of the Namaste NFT, and we all know TEDx conferences. So they are remotely organized. You can organize those conferences on your own. It provides for the details on how to do that and format and all those things. So it would be awesome. Wouldn't it be awesome if we have our own local gatherings and exhibitions and all these community coming together IRL with Nick and the Nifty DAO worldwide. This is beautiful. The vision is beautiful. With that, I want to ask Aliens of Earth, what would you like to share?
Hey, Tanmay. Great space. Glad to be here. I think this is the first time I've been on your space. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it. And I've been listening to Nick. Nick, amazing things that you're doing. I did see a lot of work that went along with Nifty and many things. Your Decentrology, Hyperverse. That's fabulous. And I'm also goes to see that you're educating people on technology. You're sharing a lot of information. This is a wealth of knowledge that is shared with the artists. It's good to artists to grasp that. I think that goes a long way. So a lot of folks who don't know me, I'm Raj. I'm based in Singapore. I help critters get spotlight. Critters, as I said, like bugs, insects, and spiders, to get your spotlight, help them spread their, the superpowers that they have. So that's short intro about me. But I have a few questions for Nick. Nick, based on just the conversation that I heard, a lot of artists who enter the NFT space are bogged down by low sales. And especially, as you said, sales doesn't define an artist. I mean, I do believe that art is something need to be elevated. But the success metrics of building any successful DAO or any marketplace kind of depends on the sales, right? So sales has to happen, and for that, as you were alluding to, you need a lot of masses to come in to buy. And you're a startup guy, very well understand the customer acquisition cost for a big marketplace or e-commerce like structures so high. And considering that, especially like when Facebook or Insta wants to bring in that mechanism of buying any digital collectible that's on Insta platform, could be for $5 or $10. How well is Nifty DAO, funded or taken into consideration to meet such competition? But you have a great community to say that goes a long way. But building the masses that who can come in to buy requires a lot of effort and a lot of money too. How are you approaching it? After that, I'll have another question.
Yeah, thanks for your question. So look, Instagram, Coinbase wallet, NFT, any kind of NFT projects that come along are not competition. They are helping us. The Nifty Dreams DAO is not a profit-making enterprise. Its goal is totally different. Its goal is to help artists succeed in this and make a living through their art. In order to do that, yes, you need capital. And this is why, as I mentioned initially, we will do a benefactor NFT drop. So those NFTs are needed for governance within the DAO. So there will be various classes of those. So right now, there's planned 2 classes. There's benefactor level NFTs, and then there are what I call dreamer level governance NFTs. So the in total, I think if my memory serves, that's going to give us about 2.25 million if we sell them all. The NFTs that we will be selling are called governance NFTs. In short, they are called GNFTs, pronounced NIFs. So you would need a governance NIF to be, for example, in the benefactor guild in order to be able to vote on certain things. You pretty much need a NIF to vote on anything. The Dreamer NIFs are going to be for artists to buy if they want to. So if they want to support this DAO, then they'll be able to buy them, and we'll make them super inexpensive. So I'm talking like 20 or 25 bucks or something like that, which I know is even that number is high, but we gotta get capital in order to make this work. So the governance NIFs is how we will get some capital in initially, and then we don't want to do like any kind of token sale or anything right now, because then we get into complex securities issues, etc. So all tokens that will be available through the Nifty Dreams DAO will be connected to Upwork. That's basically how, or a NIFT. So you never buy tokens directly from the DAO. Now there will be DEXs where you can go get them. Anyone can set up a liquidity pool and have those tokens available, but it's not going to be us. Now, that does not preclude us from in the future, once we do have capital and we have this thing running, that we actually do a token sale. The important thing to understand is there is a pattern to some of this. There is a method to, it's not madness, but there's a pattern to it. You can't like spin up something like this and like do everything in like the first week or the first month or whatever. You have to go by the playbook. And the playbook says you first have to get people together. You have to get processes in place. You got to have workflows in place. You got to have a little operating capital. You got to start building towards the initial success. You got to demonstrate some initial success, which in startup world is called traction. Once you demonstrate some traction, then you go and do a token sale, because then the investors can see where the value is. If you do a token sale initially, it's all about a vision and a white paper. And there's lots of companies that have done that. That used to be the case, but we are in the era anymore where a white paper will essentially get you millions of dollars. Even that, it was mostly limited to protocols. Protocols did the ICOs and all that kind of stuff. So we are not going to do that. What we're going to do is raise some capital initially through these governance NFTs. We're going to use that capital wisely to hopefully demonstrate traction. Start doing some interesting projects that make the DAO valuable, and then we'll go from there. So I can just speak about some of the projects that we are doing. We've already seen one of them, Namaste NFT Bangalore. So we'll do one in Bombay. TBD, all right? I'm just spitballing here because we haven't finalized anything. So don't hold me to it. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is last November, or was it December, I did a test. It was a test of the Bored Apes brand, where I had people create variants of my ape. And the idea there is to create something called the Bored Ape Culture Club, which is to use the Bored Apes brand in order to get a bunch of artists to create Bored Ape variants for a number of different apes. And I probably have about 50 or so lined up right now. They will put in capital as prize money. The artists create these variants. The variants are then owned by the DAO. The DAO then sells those, making the ape brand more accessible to people. So every ape who has these variants can have a little tribe within the DAO, and they can do interesting projects. So now capital is coming into the DAO. So that's another project. I contributed to and was the platinum producer for a Bollywood movie, Ilm. That was successful. So we'll do a couple more of those. I'm going to do a dynamic art project called Fragile in partnership with a Bollywood actor, Kunal Kapoor. That might be another project. I am about to head off into Paraguay into remote South American villages to create the concept of these adventure NFTs. So an adventure NFT gets you the whole thing: a trip, a tour, a film crew. You go to rural artisans, they make things to your specs, and you come back along with these artists with the art that they have created, along with having a personal experience, talking to them and having that all recorded and available to you. So these adventure NFTs. So there's a lot of these projects that we have on tap that we are going to start doing, and that's going to get capital coming in. But ultimately, what it means is traction. We want to really, really demonstrate traction. We demonstrate that, and we make it so that when that token sale happens, boom, it's like sold out instantly. I don't want to create a token sale where we are waiting and waiting for investors. I want to make it where investors are drooling to get their hands on this token. So that's going to come a little later, but the initial capital is by NFTs.
All right, thank you. So that answers a few things about the whole structure, whole idea, the roadmap, and your plan for tokenomics. That's awesome. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. So I had another question, but probably I can ask another time. So I'll give space for other people to ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Aliens of Earth. A brilliant question. And Nick, another exciting response and another exciting vision. And you're so clear on your ideas about startups and creating tractions before the white papers. I just love it. Brilliant. And I'm totally here to support, guys. And if you have been for Namaste NFT, you see Nick in the Twitter verse, you know what he's talking about. I'm so excited. Here's Shadi. Let us hear from you, then Dr. Vimal.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the space. I wanted to ask 2 questions, but hopefully Sakshi asked half of one of my questions. So my first question was about, but first, I just wanted to appreciate Nick for what you're doing, and congratulations on the project that you did with Vishal. It was really, really amazing. I was in that space before, and I was amazed by the fact that you were doing something for the first time and for the Indian community. And you mentioned that it's like for Indian community and it's like made them proud. But I just wanted to say it is something that makes all of us proud, because it is something that has been done for the first time, and it's really like exciting, the idea behind the project. And I just wanted to congratulate you and appreciate you for what you're doing with Dream DAO, Nifty Dreams. One question that I wanted to ask is regarding of smart contracts, because you mentioned, I think Sakshi also mentioned smart contracts, a manifold, but I didn't just understand that you were agree with like deploying in a smart contract on that platform or not. And there are 2 like technologies, ERC 1125 and ERC 7021. Do you think that we as an artist need to just have them both? Because I've been watching the space, and I've seen that some artists just use one, like ERC 7020 for 101s and also editions. And I was wondering maybe they are doing something wrong, or they don't know about how these technologies work, or just I'm right and this is possible. So I just wanted to make sure about the technological fact behind this. And the other question is that I think we as an artist and individual, we can educate our audience and like onboard people on NFTs. But how do you think we can do this in a more beneficial way? Because it is really hard for people to just know this in the first place, like NFTs, because like very complicated term in the first place. And if you're just doing a research on Google, you just become more confuse and just lose your interest. So people don't do this, or if you're doing a research and they don't understand about this or DAO or all the terms that we use in the space, they just lose their interest and they don't jump into the space, obviously. So I thought that we can also help you, but I just wanted to know your opinion on how. So thank you so much. I'm listening.
All right. Thank you, Shadi. Wonderful questions. So let's take them one at a time. With regard to smart contracts, as I was saying earlier, you should do whatever is simplest and easiest for you. I wouldn't worry too much about what's right, what's wrong, etc. Because, like, let's say that you want to buy a car to drive, 10 kilometers back and forth from work every day. You're not going to sit and evaluate the performance characteristics of the car on how well it does on the racetrack or something like that. You don't. That's not important, right? You just need it to be reliable and go back and forth from work every day. So any of these contracts are going to do that for you. Like, the problem is not with the contract. The problem is with the market and the marketing. So it really doesn't matter what you do. Just do whatever is easiest for you right now. When you enter the space, like, you learn. Then when you're ready to do something at scale, like maybe you got 1 or 2 or 3 successes, and now you're like, okay, I'm going to make like a massive collection or something like that. Then you sit and do your homework with the benefit of some knowledge behind you. So if you're just starting out, do whatever is easiest for you. Click a button and make it happen. That's kind of what I would say. But I totally agree with you about the fact that this space is full of jargon. It's really hard for people to understand all these complicated terms like NFTs and DAOs and all that kind of stuff. We cannot, like the Nifty Dreams DAO as we are creating it, cannot be in the business of also, doing a lot of education. Like, we want to focus on growing the market, of buyers, etc. So within it, we do have education as a component for artists. But what we'll do is rely on the community to do that. And that's where, like, sort of the community ambassadors and all that come into play. Like, maybe we can create a program to onboard new artists where they get paired with a community ambassador who walks them through every step of the way. One of the things that I'm very committed to doing, because I'm an open source proponent, is making sure that we always have an alternative to all the commercial sort of centralized entities there, whether it's OpenSea or Foundation or whatever, so that if the artist wants to, they can choose to use our open tools that are just as easy, just as high quality, but then they don't come with lockdown or with a particular entity, etc. So we'll do that also. But we'll start with very simple program, is like a buddy program. Like you're coming on board, you get paired with a buddy, a community ambassador. And they are there. They are responsible for answering your questions as a new artist and helping you get onboarded into the space. We'll also do, I don't know a term for them, but something like an art camp or something. So maybe every week, in 2 or 3 different times to support different time zones, we have a fixed presentation, a webinar that occurs, and someone is helping. And so as a new artist, you just pick the time that works for your time zone. You hop on that, and 60 minutes later, you have all the answers for what you need to do. So these are the kinds of programs that we have to plan and do, which we can do as individual artists. But once we are working together collaboratively, the sky's the limit. I can just imagine all you creative people doing amazing things like that, having a welcome kit or something like that. Welcome to the world of NFTs, and even starting to create a program for artists where you can get sort of a POAP badge for each step of the way. Hey, you attended a camp, boom, you got a POAP badge. You minted your first NFT, you get a POAP badge. You did something with a DAO, you get another. So we can gamify this. We can do fun things like that. But that's not all for me to think about. That's for us to think about, which is why I'm very excited to get the guilds in place, etc., and just get things cranking, because once you get the community cranking, people will do it. And just to be clear, and I want to be very clear about this, DAOs operate on the concept of seasons. They don't have to, but they generally do. A season is a short term. It could be a month, it could be a quarter, something like that. We've set up season 0 of Nifty Dreams DAO to be 4 months. So it's the last month of this quarter and the third quarter of 2022. So that's season 0. After that comes season 1. All I'm committing to is to give my full, complete 110% support in order to provide lots of leadership, capital as needed, direction, resources, whatever, to get season 0 done. So at the end of season 0, we have money, we have teams organized, and we have a bunch of these projects underway. What happens in season 1? I don't want to take personal responsibility for it. Why? Because I want it to be a collective, a DAO responsibility. The teams, the co-leads, etc. We will all work together. I'm not saying I'm leaving or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't want to be the single person responsible for it. I'll do that for season 0 to get things started. But after that, we have to work together and decide on what happens, who is going to do what, how is the money going to be spent, all of that. That's got to be a DAO community decision. And that is what is very exciting to me when we have more minds working together and doing amazing things. My philosophy of startups has always been very simple. Try and get a bunch of people together so I'm the dumbest person in the room. And then I know it'll be successful. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm working on season 0 to get a bunch of smart people together. So I'm the dumbest person there. And I know we'll be successful.
Incredible. You're definitely the smartest visionary amongst all the space. So on the same lines, Nick, I wanted to ask you a question. After the Namaste NFT, I was speaking to many other people for the demand side, for onboarding people as collectors or being a part of our space. So what I've seen is those people who were already in the crypto space, crypto holders or people who had bought into the ICO or miners, people were the people who became the collectors. I mean, this was the party other than the artists themselves buying between them. So it was easy, or people who were in the crypto, it was easy for them to explain why NFTs and why you should collect. But how do you explain to people who are unaware of crypto and blockchain, but just know Bitcoin? How can we explain them in simple terms? Because there are so many things that we can tell to them, but what, according to you, we can tell them for them to onboard and find for us to show them value of the NFT space?
It's a great question. One of the easiest way to demonstrate value is to actually have value, right? If you're trying to demonstrate value for something that does not in fact have value, then it's going to be a really hard sell, because you have to convince someone of something that isn't there. So what is the value proposition for existing NFTs right now? I think in the simplest terms, it is that you are able to connect with the artist. You are able to, that's the real and only value proposition that exists, right? Because NFTs for the most part are not dynamic, not taking advantage of the blockchain, not doing anything interesting in terms of unlocking real life things, etc. So if that's it, then play on that, and build upon that, and make sure that you can communicate that when you are acquiring an NFT now, you are acquiring a digital collectible that is one of a kind. And not only is it one of a kind, but you, by acquiring it, now have an open channel to the artist who created it. You can talk to them, you can understand their mindset, etc. And you have this unique piece of art that you might potentially, depending on the license that the artist has created. Which, by the way, don't get me started on licensing. Right now, we've got such a crappy, artists don't know anything about licensing, right? So I go and look at the descriptions of any NFT I want to buy, and I'm like, great, I can do nothing with this, or I can do everything with it, depending on how I interpret it. There are no constraints, there are no rules, there's nothing put there. But we'll fix that. We will have standard licensing terms that artists can put there. So it is very clear to the buyer what they're actually acquiring. Anyway, so right now, that's it, right? That's all we are able to sell is essentially you're getting a collectible, a digital collectible that is unique, and that you have access to the artist. What else? I'm all ears. If someone can tell me what else, then I'd love to hear it. But I don't know of any other thing that you can promise a buyer today.
Very interesting. So I'll just rephrase and highlight that value is in the artist. It's himself or herself as they are creating. We can say that the collectors can be a part of the artist's journey, own a piece of internet that they create. Suppose, imagine, I mean, this is what Gary once said. Imagine you owning brushes or mugs or paints of Jackson Pollock or Picasso. I mean, those sort of things we can own here. Another important issue which Nik highlighted was about licensing, and looking forward to hear more about this. What I usually do is I mention if they can use the license, they can reproduce it commercially or earn from it. I usually mention that in the description. We can also mention if they can have their owner of the physical art comes along with it. And these things can be done. But go ahead and mention that. Don't leave it blank, or else, as Nik said, it can be interpreted in both ways, unlimited to use in any ways, or not use at all. So that is something we can start off immediately. Let us do that. Yes, thank you, Nik, once again. And I'm looking forward to more people who what others have said, or what others can find, how they can find value in this. And another thing, what I say is, you can own the artwork across the world. It's not that you have to be locally present in their gallery or in their workshop to collect the artwork. You can remotely collect best artworks, best artists around the world at the same time. And the ownership of the artwork is for you. The blockchain is the ownership. It will be verified, and you can stake your claims to the original of it. We see there was a Munde, or there was a painting of Leonardo da Vinci which had Jesus Christ in it, and Christie's sold it as the last work of Leonardo. But there was a lot of debate on if it is original or not original, because these people, gallerists, hire validators, and many a time those validators are not genuine, or they just say what the collector or the seller wants to hear. But with the blockchain, the ownership is the one of the main things that we are providing, or they can find value in the artist in the best way and associated with them for ages to come. So thanks again for that, Nik. And let us hear from Anastasia. Hi, how are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for your space. Nice to meet you, Nik, Tanmay, Scarlett, Lily. My name is Anastasia. I learned about NFT in the fall and found my small community. I have been selling my work for a while now, but lately it has become very difficult. Thank you for solving this problem and developing it. I'm a small person, but I also want to be helpful. I noticed that a lot of people would like to learn more about art. So I started writing art history articles every Monday. I write very briefly from the beginning. While I've only writing for articles about the art of the ancient world. I'll keep going until I get to the modern day. And then I'm going to write about famous prominent artists. You can find them by hashtag on my profile. I feel like it's growing the community too. Develops an interest in art one-on-one. My only concern is that a lot of people's Twitter activity has declined and a lot of people have lost hope. but I always hope for the best. I may not be able to answer to because of my poor English, as I am accounting rough translator. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for giving hope. Do you think it is necessary to develop awareness about art in this space? Are you planning curatorial programs to support not large communities?
Hey, Anastasia, thank you so much for your question. You made me realize that I didn't state one other goal of the Nifty Dreams DAO, which is kind of sort of, I always think of it as implicit, but maybe it's not so. We make Web3 not welcoming for a lot of people because we put the burden of communicating in English on them. That is freaking difficult if it's not your first language. And there is absolutely no reason that this space should be only to those privileged enough to this. So we will, through Nifty Dreams, create localization. So we will have multilingual capabilities in order to onboard people, educate people, all of those kind of things. We want to make sure that there are spaces, there are those camps I talked about to onboard artists, etc., done by native language speakers. So it makes it super simple to onboard. That's an important thing. So with regard to curation, so we will have a curation guild where we will have a representation. I'm thinking right now that it'll be a experts in the current community, but also with experts from galleries and museums in real life, like top. We need. Here's the thing: if we are successful, we can make it highly desirable for someone who is in a museum or a gallery or something in the real world right now to be a part of this DAO. We can make it where it's a badge of honor. They want to be on it. And if we do that, then the crossover starts happening and we can start unlocking larger audience. So in terms of curation, we want to have in the curation guild professional curators of art who have already done this at scale, who organize, all kinds of museum exhibits and things like that, who know how to evaluate art, how to organize it, how to, create exhibitions and things like that. I'm not sure if I answered your question correctly, but thank you for reminding me to talk a little bit about the importance of culture and language and not all of it being westernized and English centric. We want it to be totally open and make sure that we get artists from everywhere to feel really, really welcome and to be able to be successful. English should not be a determining factor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, Nick. Just hold on to the hope. That is the most precious thing that we can have. This is for everybody. We are here. I am here. So we are in this together. Let's keep it strong. Dr. let us hear from you. Dr. Vimal has been active participant of this space. We are in the 15th week and he's been participating in every week. Dr. Vimal, how are you doing and what would you like to share or ask?
Hey, hi, Tanman. Hello, Nick. Good morning, good afternoon from India. Happy that you're back to your place now. Being a technologically challenged person like me, how can I be of any to the community, or how do I participate in your endeavors? That's one of my questions. Am I rugged?
I think no. Nick got rugged. Can you see, guys? Can you see Nick?
No. I think he's rugged. Okay. By the time he comes, Tanmay, I might have to leave because it's my surgery time. But okay. I'd be happy if you write the pointers and put it on your blog. I think I can see Nick here and the listeners now.
One sec. Oh, yes. He's back. Nick, did you hear the question, or maybe you can ask once again, Dr. Vimal?
Yeah. Let him come on the speakers panel and I'll ask. Yeah. Nick, it was a simple question like a technologically challenged person like me. How can I help in any of your endeavors, and how can I be an active part of the process of everything you've described?
Well, we're going to start off with the assumption that almost everyone who is going to be part of this DAO is going to be technologically challenged. We assume it's going to be mostly artists and people in the art community who are helping out. So you're going to find a lot of fellow persons on there. These guilds that we are creating span all domains such as marketing, curation, event production, strategy, funding, etc. So I'm sure you'll be able to find a spot in a guild that interests you. And then in addition to the guilds, we will also have special projects. And for every project, we will create teams. For everyone who is interested in helping out, there's always going to be a place for you. We want the community. This is a community-led organization, you know. So absolutely, we'll find a place for you. So I'm gonna continue working with the team and accelerate how quickly we get the guild stuff announced. I would imagine that it would happen by next week, so we can start getting people signed up. One of the things that I'm very careful is, I don't want to create a situation where like we announce all these guilds and people sign up and then what, right? So I want to make sure that there is actual action items in place, and there is coordination in place, so that once people join, there's actually stuff for them to do and there's structure to it. So I would much rather take extra time and get that right than have people join and be totally disappointed, like, hey, I joined this, but there's nothing going on. Because this requires careful planning, etc. It's a large-scale operation. It's not easy. If it was easy, people would have done it already. It's hard. And so please be patient. Teams working. We are trying to get everything in place. And it would be very easy for us to just keep adding people, right now, even the planning stage. But then actually that will hold us back a little bit. Why? Because for every new person that joins, we first have to get them to the same baseline knowledge of what we've been working on. So just give us at most a couple of weeks, and we will pull the trigger on this and kick ass.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick. But I just wanted to say, please count me in anywhere you feel I'm fitting. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vimal. And I just want to highlight once again, I just love the fact Nick is coming with so much wisdom. We see a lot of rug pull happen because of the inexperienced startups, inexperienced founders of those projects, just some teens with no prior experience coming up and wanting to make money out of the rising tides or so. But here we have Nick with 5 startup experiences, 2, as he said, failed, and then 2 were successful exits, and now in his 5th startup. Like you heard it for yourself and how detailed he has thought about all activities in this. I'm very bullish about this project and all the visions of the Nick.
But I have a question. I know people have been asking me questions, but I have a question for everybody. If I may.
Absolutely, Nick.
Sure, Nick. Our pleasure.
So my question is actually very simple. I want every artist here to think about their dream and the largest possible manifestation of that dream, and talk about it. Let's get beyond all this, the details of workflows and processes and DAOs and tokens and all of that. And let's just step into this other world of dreams. Like, what is your greatest possible dream? How do you visualize yourself? I would love to hear some people about that.
Wow, a profound question. Sony Art, let's hear it from you.
Hi everybody. Hi Tammy, Lily, Scarlett, Nick. I'm so happy to be here. And hopefully so many of my friends asked my questions before, and I was kind of I wanted to drop down because I had no questions. Everybody asked questions. But then I heard Nick ask the question, and I always think about my biggest dreams. But the biggest one is that I always want to change the world to a better place to live. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, but it's definitely possible. And everybody says, "How are you gonna do this?" And I just answer that everybody has their own world, and if you try to change your world to a better place, then little by little you're definitely changing the whole world to a better place. And especially we can start it from kids and children, because they are our future. And if we just give love to children, if we just provide the opportunity for children to live a better life, definitely there will be a better future, the better world. So that's why I always try to connect with my art with kids and children's, and I try to raise awareness about mental health and well-being, especially for kids. So the more kids are aware of their mental health and well-being, and the more they try to maintain or keep their beautiful and pure soul, the better world we will have. And this is my biggest dream. After that, the other dream is to just build a shelter for animals and to help more animals to just have the opportunity to live a better life, free from suffering. So yeah, I guess these two dreams will lead to a better world for everyone, in my opinion, kids and animals. Yeah, this is it. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for this amazing, wonderful space. I was not here at the beginning, so I'm gonna definitely listen to the recording. And special thanks to Nick for all the information you provided us today. And thanks for having me here again.
Sony, you touched upon a point that we haven't talked about yet, and I'm working on this DAO. I'm fundamentally an entrepreneur, and I want to innovate. But this thing, what we are doing here with Nifty Dreams, is kind of special. It's not why I do like some of the other things I do. This thing is very special because I see Nifty Dreams as a vehicle to make a lot of people's dreams come true. That's a given. But I also have a dream, and I want Nifty Dreams DAO to make that dream come true. And it is a very pie in the sky like dream, but I want to make steps toward it. And my dream is this: we live in a world today where there is so much animosity, so much hatred, so much mistrust among people. Social media has done that. There's just so much spite, etc. And I want the same thing you kind of described. I want a more gentle, a more loving world where people are more helpful and loving to each other. And I very deeply, with all my heart, believe that art is the way to do that. I feel it like if we can have a more egalitarian world where art is no longer just the domain of the wealthy, because that is what it is today. Only wealthy people can own amazing art. But if we make it where anybody, no matter what their socioeconomic status, no matter what their culture, education, etc., can own art and appreciate it and be able to access it, I believe we will be creating a gentler, more loving society. And people can laugh at me if they think that's a pie in the sky thing. I don't care. I want to take a step towards doing that. And this whole thing, the why I'm pouring my heart and soul into Nifty Dreams, is not to make money. It is to make a world that's kinder and gentler and more loving.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, exactly. Art is the best way to do this. And I'm so glad and appreciate hearing this from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick and Sonia. A more gentler, kind, and loving world. And of course, the art we create many arts have created revolution. They have influenced the culture. And I'm sure, Nick, this is not high up in the sky. We can totally imagine this and are with you. And go ahead, we are with you. That's what I would say. And about Sonia, she has rescued cats and she has cats in her. So kids and animal shelter, that's another great dream. So thanks to both of you. Let us hear from Lily, then Poyo and Adi.
Thank you. I talk about my aims and my dreams. I don't want to say details dreams, but I want to say it to you completely. As the first, when I knew Google at the first time when I was teenage, all of my dreams was that when I die and somebody search my name in Google, somebody search Leila Hazemi in Google, Google doesn't show no result found. And I want to be important in my way. It doesn't matter what way you choose. It's matter to be proud for your community, for your family, for your culture, country, or anything. I just want to aim to this goal to when I die, nobody forget me. Nobody. I really afraid that when I die, everybody forget me and nobody reminds me. I want to search my name and Google brings many results of my name. I want to be useful. I just want this. And as I'm an Iranian woman and I born and grew up and live in Iran, achieving too many dreams was very difficult for us every time. We are every day, every time fighting for our little goals, our little dreams. And most of us never give up. And I learned it. I failed many times. I broke many times. And I had many little dreams. For example, art. Art always was a dream for me. You know why? Because in church, my family doesn't allow me to study in art. And I never give up. I try to do my best in my art to for a day that I die and somebody search my name in Google and Google say my name as an artist. That's enough for me.
That's so amazing, Lily. Like, I'm sorry to hop in, but I just wanted to share this. Like, when Sonia told and when Lily was talking about, I was thinking how much I could resonate with it. When I was sick, when I had cancer 3 years back, I had the same thing. I was studying, okay? It was like I was peak. I was going to be a doctor. In 2 months, I was told, like, I can't study, I can't do anything. And then I was like, what did I do so much for? Because I love drawing, and in India, they don't respect art. People go and see, just like Nick told, it's only for rich people enjoy it. I was told if you need to have a reputable job and you need to be independent. So I thought of the most respected thing, just like how everyone sees, either being a doctor, engineer, those kinds of things. But at the same time, my brain was stereotyped to like art not being that. But when I was sick, I started doodling. That time I realized like I was happy, and when I posted it in Instagram, I was so happy with the few likes I used to get. I saw artists like Sonia is one of the people I is from the start of my journey who I was admiring a lot. And you are so brave being in Iran. You know how many differences people face. My parents, like except my mom, no one knows I draw. Not my dad. My dad is literally against me, so I'm studying engineering. But I draw. I create it because I want to be seen. My voice that is being heard here is so important for me. And every day, even though I feel sick, I feel happy. Like, oh yeah, I'm creating. Yeah, hosting a space with Tanmay, even the first time I co-hosted it, I was crying after it ended because that was the first time. And today, there's so many people talking to Nick, talking to you, talking to Sonia. I couldn't imagine that I could talk to Sonia, hear her speak. This was all possible because of NFTs and women getting opportunity. Because when I started to learn about crypto, I gave up in between because I couldn't understand. People were like the Telegram channels actually, which I joined to learn, were all about like boys and guys being rude. It was scary. And in the workshop, when I saw women, like their eyes were sparkling, art, being affordable to everyone. Everyone is creative. It's just that they are so used to hearing the stereotypes that they don't know what's hidden in them. And this space is going to grow, a lot with everything that's happening now. It's going to be huge. And being the early startups, I feel so proud to say that I'm here. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scarlett. We are all here with you. Thanks for sharing that. I feel happy, listening to you. I'm feeling happy that you are able to progress and achieve all those things you did. And best wishes to you. I'm sure you're going to do great, and we all are here with you. Lily wants to her Google to show up her name, and this is another problem, right? Being oblivious or not. What are we doing? Or having a Wikipedia page. So I think my perspective is the more we reach out, the more hearts we touch, the more smiles we can bring on a face. That's how people would want to know more, right? More want to know more about you, and that's how Google would take interest. So my dream is to bring smile on all people's faces. I feel happy to see others happy. I usually say, bring a smile on your face as broad as you can see on my PFP. So yeah, feel in whatever ways I can, sharing value through knowledge or through direct help. Yesterday we had Shalini Art Soul, whose mother had passed away last week, and we did a condolence space in the memory, and so many of you in the space had showed up to the space, and it was amazing to have you all there. That's the power of NFTs and Web3, bringing a tribe together on one common mission in different ways. We are same tree, flowering in different flowers, flowering in different ways, having our own dreams. Now the only limit what we have on ourselves is how big we can dream. So that is the only limit that we have. Don't stop yourself from dreaming big. It's usually ourselves, not the others, who stop that. So amazing question and amazing conversation. Go back, think about it, take a day or a whole week to think the biggest dream that you can have. Dream the biggest without any constraint. Just the imagination is the limit. So amazing question, Nick. Thanks everyone for participating. Let us hear from dreams of Poyo and Orne and Adi. Poyo is another artist from Iran. Poyo, how are you today?
Hey, my friend. Hey, friends. How's everybody doing? Tanmay, how are you doing today, my friend?
Very good. Nick is in a jet lag. Yes, yet he is participating us. That we are very glad and fortunate to have that. So, Poyo, what is your dream?
Yes. So I've been listening to conversation for I think 2 hours now, and you guys have been holding great conversation. Thanks a lot, Nick, for everything that you're doing. I was following Nifty Dreams. Now I'm following you too. So I really like that sentiment of bringing art to the masses, and the sentiment of education. I think is very honorable and is something that the world needs today. We all need to be educated in the ways of art, in the ways of love, in the ways of kindness. Get all of that together. So yeah, thanks a lot for being there. And my dream, I dream I dream a lot. Usually I'm a daydreamer. So but one of my biggest dreams is to be able to grow to a where I can be myself without any restrictions. I wish to express myself. I want to be able to speak language. I want to be able to help my people. I want to be able to do all the things that I want to do without being pushed into it. There's a lot of time, living in this country, living in this day and age, living in this situation where you are forced into things. My family forces me into a major, somebody else forces me into a job. Did this idea of this person, the effect of post-colonialism, I don't know, this everything starts to steer you in different directions. And what I want is to go back to my roots and help my people come back to their roots, and for us to be able to sit down, appreciate each other, see each other, go to each other's hearts, have heartfelt conversation, share love, and just be honest and true in the moment. There's a lot of time that I feel preoccupied. There's a lot of time that for example, right now I'm going through a huge challenge that is just towering against me, and I have learned that just by being sincere and in the moment, I can get through it with just myself and the help of my friends, and that's how I want it to be for everybody else. I want everybody else to be able to go through their towering challenges with sincere honesty and the help of their friends. So yeah, my dream is to love and help, I guess. So
Thank you, Poyo. Yes, we all have faced similar struggles, and for people like you coming from Iran or people from Africa, they have to take more steps to even start at zero, like come to our zero level of starting with VPNs and in the political other sphere. And we all have personal issues, society telling us what is good, what is not good, as Scarlett was mentioning, what to do, what to not do. I have a question from that for Nick. You have been such a successful in the startup space. You are from Mumbai, you have now in the Silicon Valley. How did you dream when you were young, and how did you deal with the pressure of society or people not wanting you to be what you want?
Oh wow, that's a deep question. I always see when I left India, when I left Bombay, I was like just shy of 18, and I came to the US to study computer science. And at that time, it was really expensive. And, we were just your average middle class kind of family in India. And so my sister my elder sister, she sponsored me. She got the funds from, however she could manage. And I remember at the airport, she told me two things. She made me promise that I would get my degree and I would be famous. And, I came here and then I, was going on through my studies, etc. And then a year later, I came home one night from work and found my parents and my other sister sitting in my apartment. And I was like, whoa, what a nice surprise. But they had come to tell me that a month prior, my eldest sister had been killed in a car accident. And that changed my life, quite literally, and they hadn't told me this earlier because they knew that I would leave. And I had a single entry visa. And if I left, it would be impossible for me to come back. It would be impossible for me to keep my promise. So they didn't tell me because there's nothing I could have done anyway. But that was very difficult for me, dealing with that trauma, and also dealing with the fact that now, like, I literally had no financial support. My other sister and my family said they would try their best, but I was mostly on my own. So here I am, just about 19, in all by myself, dealing with my siblings' death, and also having to figure out how I'm going to survive and keep my promise. So I petitioned the U.S. Immigration Department to allow me to work off campus because the on-campus jobs were terrible. They're like $2 or $3 an hour, but off campus you could make more. And they accepted my request, and I went and talked to all my professors, and I basically told them that, hey, look, I'm just going to show up for exams, and I started working. I worked 80, 90 hours a week. I did every possible kind of job you can imagine. I worked literally every kind. No job was too menial for me. I worked in retail. I worked in bakery at the night shift, baking bread. I did consulting. I did everything. And my grades were terrible because I was never able to get into class. But I took the exams, and it took me 5 years to get a 4-year degree, but I got that damn degree, But I learned a lot more than most kids because I was learning about business. I was learning about all kinds of how to interact with people, social skills, financial skills, all of that. And so, so I kept and got that degree. And then it was just this desire to, I don't think of being famous as being a celebrity or anything like that. It's more about being notable, doing something as, I think it was Sonia was saying earlier, it's being remembered for having made a difference in the world. And I wanted to do that very, very desperately. And so I started, working toward that. I worked in like a large global sort of packaging company for a little bit. As a network administrator, I was bored. Because I was bored, I wrote some software that saved them some $5 million. And then they created a job for me at headquarters to do IT research and development. And I was just a kid. They gave me this huge $1 million budget and a staff for do whatever you want to. So I networked a whole bunch of plants around the world with email and internet and all that at that time. And but I was not happy. I wanted to do my own thing because I wanted to keep my promise. And so on day 365, I went and told my boss, I'm done. I'm never going to work for anyone again. And I quit. And I started my own consulting company, consulting in something I knew nothing about. I just asked around, what's the most consulting gig? And people said, well, it was this technology called Lotus Notes. I'm like, okay, I'm a Lotus Notes consultant. And I went and pitched, and I got Toyota as a first customer, grew that business, sold it, and on and on. And so, I'm working on that promise. I want to. It's not about fame for the sake of fame. I want to have made a difference in the world and be remembered for that. So that's kind of what drives me. And more recently, I spent the better part of 2017 in the span of I made 11 trips to India to take care of my mom because she was battling cancer and she passed away in one of the things she and I, in her last sort of conversations, she told me that to always help others and to make the world better. And so now I have two strong women in my life who drove me to do that. And so that's kind of what drives me.
Beautiful. A person who has supported you, made you to dream, and the trauma of them not being there, and that motivating you to go ahead and achieve further. And then again, your mom, and taking on this writing code, then it was an amazing journey. I mean, it was inspiring to listen to what you shared, trying out board and trying out a script, and then becoming getting $1 million offer and job and a team to work for, then quitting all that to start your own consultancy and becoming a Lotus Notes consultant. So Nick, what can you take us more ahead with those two startups that you always say that failed miserably, and then the next two that you had a successful exit in? I think Nick got rugged once. Nick, did you hear me earlier? Should I repeat? Hello?
Hey, sorry, yeah, I got rugged there for a bit, so I switched to listening. So your question was to talk about my startups?
Yes, your two startups that you mentioned that struggle, that failed miserably, and then the next two that you had a successful
Am I audible?
exit in. Yes, yes.
Okay, so your last question was about my failed startups?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So my consulting company that I started, that grew pretty rapidly, and in 4 years I sold it because I got bored. I get bored very easily, and actually I was more interested in the .com boom that was happening at the time. So I had this idea of something called widgets. They're commonplace now, but at that time no one had heard of them. And so I created a company called iWidgets, which created essentially programmable units of application code that could be embedded into any website and manifested themselves with the UI. I raised $7 million from Draper Fisher and a few others. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio at the time, and I was young and foolish, and I also put all my own that I had made from my startup into it. So grew the business. It was doing well. Had 60 employees, had customers, etc. And then there was the .com crash, and there was no Series B funding available, and so I lost everything. I was down to a couple $100, and nothing. Everything was gone. And but I learned so much. You learn so much from running a startup, and you only fail if you stop trying, right? As long as you're moving forward, success is inevitable. So if you stop, then you fail. If you keep going, inevitably you will succeed. So that was my first, if you will, failed startup, and then from there I got involved with a few others, and we created an open source project called .NET Nuke, called DNN now. It was an open source CMS in the Microsoft ecosystem. It ended up becoming the largest open source project in the Microsoft ecosystem at one point. Very large worldwide community of developers, lots of websites built on it, an ecosystem created on it. And myself and my 3 co-founders and a very active group of volunteers, we took it from inception to multiple rounds of funding and eventual exit in 2017. So that was good. And then I was bored, and I got connected via a blog post by a Microsoft evangelist with Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, the comic strip, which some of you may or may not know. He's also a New York Times award-winning author. And we built a blockchain-based smart contract platform where you could video chat with anybody in an app called Interface to find an expert on any topic. So, for example, you're painting your home and you're like, I wonder what I should paint. Maybe an interior decorator can give me advice. So you could get on Interface and find an interior decorator them in live video without having exchanged any numbers or anything like that. for their opinion, and the whole thing would be billed per second on a smart contract. But it was very early in crypto, and we only got to like 80,000 users, and we weren't able to scale much after that. So we kind of shut it down. So that was my second failure, if you will. So my consulting company and DNN were my two exits, and iWidgets and WhenHub Interface were my two failed startups.
Thank you so much. I'm sure your elder sister and your mom are proud of you. And with NFTs and all the three NFT DAO, Nifty DAO, TryCrypto, and Decentrology, and so many hearts you're touching with space, and so many more to come. You're really making a difference. And what I learned personally from this is keep moving forward. There is a lot to learn in keeping on trying and keeping on moving ahead. So yes, thank you, Nik, for that. Just one question, then. Sorry.
Actually, if I may just expound on that, so I said Scott is a great author. He wrote a book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big, and it's a very popular book. And one of the things he talks about in there that I think is important for people to know, especially people who are young and just starting out in this space, is to understand that you cannot be successful if you haven't failed. If you just get success early on, it's not going to be sustainable. It will result in failure. It is much better to go through the journey of failures and then succeed. In the book, he specifically talks about the fact that every time you fail, you've learned something new, and so you have made yourself incrementally slightly better. Now, if you think incrementally improving your time, what happens in aggregate is that each time you fail, you made yourself a lot better. So you know what that means? It means that success is guaranteed. It is impossible for you to fail if in aggregate you are much, much better than where you were before. So don't stop trying. Just keep on going. Don't look at failure as sort of anything more than a milestone, a point where you change what you're doing. Take the lessons you've learned and just use them in the next thing. I advise a lot of startups, and when they say, "Oh, you're an expert," I'm like, I am no expert, literally nothing. I'm like, what I can do is I can help you make new mistakes. That is the only promise I give them. I'm like, I'll tell you about what I've learned from my mistakes. You should not repeat them. Let's make new mistakes together. So.
Let's go, LFG. Let's make new mistakes together. I'll repeat the name of the book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win. And rephrasing what Nik said, every failure has seeds to your next success. Keep failing. Fail early, fail fast. Nik, so two things that we are getting from this: dream big, don't limit yourself, and keep moving forward. Keep failing fast. You will have compounding returns and aggregate returns of all the learnings you get from that. Nik, my question is about dreaming. How does one dream about the next big thing, or how does one become or live to their maximum potential? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I did a talk in Stanford some years ago on innovation. And, all of us want to innovate and do some life, amazing, world-changing thing, etc. And we try and think in more complicated terms, right? Give you two simple pieces of advice, if I can. I don't feel qualified to give any advice, but if you can characterize this as like maybe lessons, First thing, most innovations, you look around the world, most innovations, slow them down, are merely existing ideas combined in a novel way. That's it. Almost every innovation that you see is exactly like that. You can break it down and you will find that's the case. So that's one thing. Two is, if you're going to work on something, work on a painkiller, not a vitamin. A lot of people get seduced into working on vitamins Vitamins are optional. We take them, we don't take them, we will be fine. But painkillers, if you don't take them, you're hurt, right? You need them, absolutely. So whatever idea or whatever you're working on, make sure it's a painkiller. What that translates to is that it has to be solving a real problem that exists. If it is not, then your chances of success are going to be very slim. The best problems to work on are ones most successful founders are ones that scratch their own itch. They have a problem. The world has not given them a good solution. And so they work on a solution for that. And this is basically how innovation happens, how great companies are built, how great startups are built. There's a founder who's like, this is not working for me. And they build something.
Wow, you just gave me a clue, massive clue to the problems which I was having in my mind. Scratch your own itch, start best problems are that which the world is not giving you a good solution for. Make a painkiller, not a vitamin, and keep moving forward. Nik, I just have a small request. We have got wonderful pearls of wisdom through this conversation. Do you mind if I publish this as a podcast episode?
Not at all. Feel free. I don't know that I said anything insightful or whatever, but please do. So I really appreciate all the love, all the insightful questions and comments here. And I hope you guys will keep talking about your dreams just dream big, like there's nothing to stop you. And then we can work together to make those dreams come true. So I love you all. Thank you.
So do follow Nifty Dreams, TryCrypto, Decentrology for the Hyperverse. Nik, love you. Lots of love for you from around the world. More power to you. Keep strong, stay strong, keep smiling, keep dancing with us. Best wishes to you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Connect with me on Twitter and Instagram to get updates on the new shows and to participate on live recordings. All links are mentioned in the show notes. We will be back next week with another fantastic episode.